We're going to be remembering tonight four chayalim, four soldiers that we learned some Torah for. We're learning about Mor Kaduri, who was killed in a car crash when she was young. To Yaakov Roll, who was a soldier, a technician, a flight technician, who was killed in 1974 in ER in 1974, 5734. We're also thinking about Adel Tafesh, who was killed at the age of 33, a father of two, in a forest fire in the Carmel region. And we are also thinking about Yaniv Sasson, who was killed at the age of 20 by a roadside bomb in Lebanon in service. We learned Torah, a Mishnah for each one of them, and we're going to continue to remember Yehi Zichram Baruch, let their memories be a blessing.
Amen.
Noah Levin Epstein, Zichronu Livracha, represents Eretz Yisrael, represents Am Yisrael, and at the same time also represents the good efforts of this country of the United States for the sake of what's right and for the sake of what's good, as he fought on behalf of the United States during World War II. It's an interesting story. He was born and raised in Eretz Yisrael. He went on to study aeronautical engineering at the University of Michigan, here in the US in the early 1940s. When the US entered the war, he joined the Air Force. He was on a mission over Germany, Aleph Kislev, in 1944 in Tafshin Hay, and was shot down over enemy territory. He was brought to burial in a cemetery for US soldiers in Belgium. He represents the best efforts of the Jewish people to do what's right and fight against evil. He represents building up of all that's good in the world, in Eretz Yisrael particularly, but in the world generally as well. Yehi Zichro Baruch. May his memory be a blessing.
Tonight we are honoring Eyal Leshem. Eyal was someone who was hard, a worker and a diligent worker, someone who was a true go-getter. We learned about Eyal that in order to properly prepare for his combat unit in the army, he chose to run 12 miles every single night to be in peak physical condition for the job. And we have chosen to honor Eyal by trying to accept Shabbos 5 minutes earlier than usual. Just like Eyal took the initiative and was a go-getter and didn't let things come passively to him, we will try to go out and bring Shabbos and take the initiative and bring Shabbos into our lives.
Mordechai Ezra was a smiling young man with a well-known sense of humor who was always willing to help those around him, so that in his last shift, he replaced a policeman who got into trouble and paid for it with his life. We're going to learn a Mishnah for him.
Eli El-Harar grew up in France. In 2001, at age 19, Eli made Aliyah. Eli joined the IDF in early 2002. During his service, he was careful about remaining Shomer Torah and Mitzvot until he tragically fell later that year. I will honor Eli by learning in his memory.
Oren Zarif. Oren Zarif was a sniper in the Gidon Battalion of the Golani Brigade. He fell on August 28, 1997, when his unit encountered a squad of terrorists in southern Lebanon. Oren was 21 years old when he fell. I will be doing an act of chesed in Oren's memory.
Anne and Shelley Golumbek are about to light a candle on Yom Hazikaron in memory of two cousins, along with all the other heroes who have fallen, but specifically tonight for Benji Hillman and Donnie Gomez.
Benji Hillman was one of Ann's cousins. Donnie Gomez was another one of Ann's cousins. Donnie actually, a number of years ago, spent a Shabbat in the young Israel of Lawrence-Cedarhurst. Donnie had been married for 2 years, and his wife was in her 7th month of pregnancy when his helicopter was shot down. Benji was on a mission to save other Chayalim and was Moser Nefesh. We remember him on this day as we remember all the Chayalim and all of their families and all of those who gave their lives al Kiddush Hashem so that we can have the state of Israel today.
Benji fought by land and Donnie fought in the air and defended us from on the ground and above. And we truly, truly sorely miss them. And our thoughts go out to all the families of all the Chayalim and victims of terror on this Yom HaZikaron.
On this Yom HaZikaron Tafshin Pei, we want to acknowledge the sacrifice of Eliyahu ben Sabina and Avraham, a soldier who fell in 1948 in the Milchemet HaShechrur. He was a brave soldier, as you can see from his bio, and he deserves our recognition and our eternal thanks.
Netta Shapiro was known as an excellent soldier and a loyal friend. He fell at the age of 20 during the Yom Kippur War. I am donating in his honor to the Yal holiday program for IDF soldiers.
We remember Yehuda ben Yaakov on this Yom HaZikaron. He was born in 1953 and fell in the 1973 Yom Kippur War. He was born in Israel, lived in Eilat and Ma'alot, was a good friend, a good athlete, a good student, and volunteered for the Shaked unit, the reconnaissance unit, and fell in the Yom Kippur War. We remember him today.
Lighting this candle tonight, the Zecher Nishmas Daniel Asraf, who was killed in the Yom Kippur War. His family moved from Morocco to Israel in 1962, and learning also some Torah. Zecher is his neshama because he is unable to do so at this time.
So this is in honor of Yom HaZikaron for Noam Tzabari, who's a former resident of Rehovot, where both my parents grew up, as well as where I lived. So I'm going to light a candle in his memory. And Noam served in the IDF, in the Air Force. He was also a very technical person with a degree from Ort, which is a technical high school in Rehovot, actually located about a block from where we lived. He was also very well loved by both his comrades as well as his family. And what we've decided to do is to dedicate the Torah study in honor of Noam, as well as doing chesed. תהיה נשמתו צרורה בצור החיים, יהיה זכרו ברוך.
Yaron Yogev.
Yaron Yogev was a soldier with the paratroopers and became an officer in one of its elite units. In January of 1990, Yaron fell in combat in Lebanon while his unit was engaged in preventing the infiltration of terrorist squads.
Yaron was 22 years old. In his letter of condolence to the bereaved family, the unit commander wrote, "During his service in the unit as a soldier and a commander, Yaron displayed by his character and behavior all the positive traits that a man should have."
We dedicated today's Daf Yomi Shir in Ramat Beit Shemesh to honor Yaron's memory.
Hi, my name is Louis Stein, and I'm honoring Yehuda ben Yaakov, who was a fallen soldier who was nifter in the Yom Kippur War on October 10th, 1973. He was going to help relieve Israeli fortresses along the Suez, and he got into a battle with Egyptian commandos and was killed in battle. He was 20 years old. Yehuda ben Yaakov. In his memory, I will be adding additional learning. May his neshama have an aliyah.
We are lighting this candle in memory of Yosef Yehuda Mermelstein, known as Sefi.
Sefi remained in the army after his 3-year service to become an officer. He was described as being an outstanding officer, modest, pleasant, accepting, and sympathetic to all in his battalion. He left the army to pursue a degree in economics and accounting at Tel Aviv University. During that time, the Lebanon War began and Sefi was called up. At just 25 years old, he lost his life serving his country during Operation Peace for the Galilee.
Brigadier General Amnon Eliaz from Kibbutz Beit Alpha. What was said about Brigadier General Eliaz was that he was an excellent officer who was experienced and always brought a very focused mindset to every mission that he went on. He died in 1982 and left behind a wife and 5 children, and Esther and I will be giving a donation to the Friends of the IDF in his memory.
In this Yom HaZikaron, we are honoring the hero Avner Yaskov, and we're going to light a yurtzeit candle in his memory. Avner Yaskov is a true Israeli hero. He moved to Israel from the Caucasus as a young boy when he'd already been orphaned from his father, and he joined Givati, and he died during Operation Defensive Shield when he was in his 30s and already married with children after the attack on the Netanya Hotel in one of the fiercest battles in Jenin. He was always smiling, dedicated to his family, loved sports like our children, including diving and basketball, and our thoughts are with him and his family today. And we are going to learn Torah in his memory and in his honor.
Yaakov Levi was known for his dedication. He fell in 1973 at the age of 45. In his honor, I am going to be sponsoring a day of learning at my school.
Tzvi Shweid was born in 1951 in Bnei Brak to parents who immigrated to Israel from Romania. He loved nature and photography. While serving in the Israel Air Force during the Yom Kippur War, the helicopter in which Tzvi was transporting wounded soldiers was shot down by Egyptian fire, killing all aboard.
In his memory, we will do chesed and Torah learning. May his neshama be an aliyah for us all.
I'm lighting memorial candles in memory of my friend Israel Barzilai Alav Shalom and his brother-in-law Avi Lanir Alav Shalom. Please permit me a few words about these two heroes. The 3 of us fought in the Golan Heights against the Syrians during the Yom Kippur War. Israel and I were drafted and trained together as tankists before the Yom Kippur War. When our training ended, Israel became a tank commander in the 7th Armored Brigade, and I was sent to the Golan Heights to the 188th Armored Brigade. We remained close friends despite being deployed to different locations. During the Yom Kippur War, Israel fought in the Northern Front, participated in the first and famous Battle of Emek HaBacha. Israel Barzilai was killed in this battle after his crew destroyed 20 Syrian tanks. It took me many months after the war ended to gather the strength to visit Israel's bereaved parents, who had also lost their son-in-law, Avi Lanier. Avi was a pilot in the Air Force and was the commanding officer of the Air Force 101st Squadron. When his unit lost many pilots and the pilots were exhausted, he volunteered to go on flying missions. During one of these sorties above the Golan Heights, his aircraft was hit by Syrian anti-aircraft missiles, and Avi parachuted and fell captive. Avi Lanier was the highest-ranking Air Force officer that fell captive. Sadly, Avi did not return alive from his captivity in Syrian hands. May we remember, cherish, and salute my dear friend Israel Barzilai and his brother-in-law Avi Lanier, and all the Chayalim who sacrificed their lives to protect our nation. Yeh Zichram Baruch.
El Molei Rachamim Shochim Bamromim Hamsei Menucha Nechona Al Kanfei Ashchina Dema'alos Kedoshim Utorim V'Giborim Kezoar Rakia Eirim Umazhirim Neneshamos HaKadoshim Chayolei Tzvo Haganol Yisrael U'V'Socham Shalom Ben Avraham Shekabru Lahem Lochamei Hamaftaros V'Chativos HaLochamim Asheheru Es Navsham V'Chalitzam Le'ezras HaAm V'Oretz V'Shenaflu Akidush Hashem V'Rachos Yisrael V'Zishbos Achenu V'Achiosenu HaKadoshim V'Neim V'Sharsei HaUma Shenahagu V'Polas Eiva V'Terror Ba'Oretz V'Chutz La'Oretz V'Shahol Chula Olamam Ba'Avurus Shekol Am Yisrael Mizpalim L'Ilolish Mosehem B'Ganei Dentehem U'Chasam L'chein Ba'al Arachmim Yasreim V'Seisner Krafov L'Olamim V'Yitzro B'Tzorachem V'Snush Mosehem Adonai Yunach L'Sam V'Yanuch V'Shalom Mishk Mosehem V'Ta'amod L'Chol Yisrael V'Susam V'Yamdu L'Gorolam L'Kei Tzamin V'Noimar Amen.